there, I'm Gabriel from contemporaryvoicelessons.com, and today we're going to talk about whether mixed voice is even real or not, because mixed voice, I find, is one of the videos that has caught more traction for me. And one of the things I want to say off the gate is that YouTube can be a dangerous place, and it can be a great place too. But what I mean by that is that YouTubers tend to title their videos and put a little caption on their video, trying to get the attention of you, so that you click on it and watch it, so that their following can grow and they can have more engagement. So the reason why I'm making is mixed voice even real video is because I'm looking to grow my channel, and so I put that as a title, hoping that it catches your attention. And so if it works like that, it can be very tricky to find information that is from experienced and sources, and from people that know what they're talking about. Because anybody can be on YouTube. You could open a YouTube channel, anyone could open a YouTube channel and talk about whatever they want. And then YouTube has an algorithm, and they will recommend to you whatever you've been kind of looking at, things that are similar to that. And then you'll be in this what's known as an echo chamber, where you will be watching a lot of videos that are in alignment with what you've been kind of clicking on. So it's really dangerous to just go on autopilot and go on YouTube and just click on whatever they suggest, because when you do that, you're living just in a space where your attention is being grabbed by whatever YouTube thinks is going to get you to click on it. So I say all of that. I know this is not a YouTube lesson, but I'm talking about singing, so that you break out of that and notice that you're looking for something, mixed voice, whatever that is. That's probably why you're watching this. And YouTube knows that because you've watched other videos along those lines. And now it's just going to recommend whatever videos seem to fit that bill. But what is even mixed voice? Is it even real? And the thing is that, this little buzzword, mixed voice, has been, in the lexicon for singing for quite some time, and we never really stopped to look at it. So when someone says, or a lot of people say the same kind of thing over and over again, we don't even know if it's true or not. And so that's why I want to talk about that. So the answer is mixed voice is just, like I said in my video, how to find mixed voice, is just a label. It's a phrase. In reality, every single note that we sing has some kind of a mix. So they talk about, chest voice being the lower part of your voice. And this is an expression that, came into being a really long time ago, before we knew what the vocal folds looked like and we had all the technology we have today. And then head voice, that also came into being as long ago, when monks were singing and feeling their voices resonating in their head or in their chest. And they didn't really know, what was going on and why they felt that. But now we know a lot about acoustics and physics and just physiology to know what's actually happening. So we have to get with the times and modernize our understanding. And, it takes a really long time for the collective understanding of something to be refined. Back in the day, we believed in dragons and witches and all these things, or just in all these wrathful deities that were angry at us, sending these storms and earthquakes and things like that. And now we understand how, natural disasters and these things work better. And we understand that it's not that, God is angry at us. So I know that I'm covering a really broad subject here, but I just want to say that mixed voice and head voice and chest voice to me, as I see it, are kind of outdated, and I'm in my 30s still, and I've been teaching singing for over 15 years now, and so my hope is to keep moving, the understanding forward and to be at the leading edge of what we understand now. And there's just so much outdated stuff. So if you watch my videos, you'll see that, for example, I made a video about classical singing and contemporary singing, how different they really are, even though for many years when I was going to college, I would keep hearing the myth, if you can sing classical, you can sing anything. Which I found to not be true, because I wanted to sing contemporary music, because I fell in love with the songs on the radio. And I went to college and I got a classical singing teacher, and she had a very strict and rigid idea of what singing was. And then I started taking lessons with her, and although I thought she was really good at what she did, it wasn't what I was looking for. So I was finding myself pretty unhappy with the outcome of the lessons. And it wasn't until I found a teacher that was more in alignment with what I wanted to do, contemporary singing, that I felt like, whoa, I found, exactly what I was looking for. And, in that whole process, I realized that I love to learn about the voice, the physiology and the mindset and just all that it takes into being a singer. And in that process of learning, I then joined the online forum and started, passing on what I had learned, and was getting good responses from these people in the forum back in the day when, we still typed a lot and it wasn't all video based, and I would write long dissertations on what I understood singing to be. And that's kind of how I became a voice teacher. And this was like back in 2006 or something like that. So, forward to now, there's so many things that I used to believe back in 2006, and then 2007, 8, 9, and I just have had to keep refining and understanding my understanding of how singing functions and works. So one of the things I used to strongly believe in back then was head voice, chest voice, mixed voice. And now, it never really sat well with me, and intuitively I always felt like there was something a little too simplistic on that. Back in there was something called speech level singing back then, where you were supposed to keep your larynx, which is where your vocal folds are, in case you don't know, in the same spot, like throughout your entire range. And I remember trying that and constricting myself a lot. So luckily, I've stuck with it and kept learning about it and kept practicing. And now I have my own kind of comprehensive understanding of how all this stuff actually works. And as much as these simplistic, little labels can kind of help to focus us and organize our thinking around it, it's really important to dispel myths and just break all of these kind of rigid notions on how to sing and perform. And that's why I have this YouTube channel now, and that's also why I teach, because I see so many singers and so many of my students spinning their wheels and just living in this idea that there's this very simple kind of way of structuring singing that's going to give them all the results they want. And I see them get very frustrated. And one of those is just this registered talk, which I also participate in, because again, to gain access and to get the attention of a singer, I have to use one of those buzzwords that they already kind of believe in. And then I go in and I try to deconstruct that so that they can be left with something a little more simple and effective, or even something a little more comprehensive and all-inclusive. So I'm constantly working with whatever beliefs or ideas or notions a singer has about what singing is, and then I kind of ask them questions, and then when I hear their answers, I can ask them more questions to see if I can kind of expand the way that they look at things. So if you look at all my other YouTube videos, they're very much about expanding your mindset and expanding your understanding of how things actually work. So, it's a lot of talking. Hopefully you're still with me. I know our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter every day. But if you're still there, the mixed voice is a misnomer, like I said, and it's kind of like just a catchphrase, like I've said, because supposedly there's all these registers, right? Well, it's not really true. Every single time you're singing a note, there is some degree of mixture of a bunch of aspects that physiologically kind of align themselves to create a sound. So the idea with mixed voice is that down here we have chest. It's a very thick and rich voice. And up here we have head voice or falsetto. And then somewhere in here, there's something called mix, which is a blend of both. But the more contemporary knowledge and understanding is that there's always a little bit of mixing going on. It's just a matter of degree. So I can go ah, or I can go ah, or I can go ah. And all of those have a mixture of resonance that happens in the lower part and the higher part of the body, depending on how I'm singing it. So I'm just saying that if you think like this, that everything you sing has some kind of a mixture and it's just a matter of degree, then that's a better mindset than thinking that there's non-mixture down here, non-mixture up here, and mixture in the middle. There's always an amount of mixture, and that depends on what tone you want to sing, what volume you want to sing, and what pitch you want to sing. There's always a degree of mixing happening. So one of the things that is really awesome about the voice is that you can sing the same note in so many different ways. So if you've ever looked at an organ in a church, right? And if you do, each note on the keyboard and the piano on the organ has a little tube attached to it. And so the higher notes have a very thin, long tube. The lower notes have a thicker tube because that matches the quality of that pitch. And so it's going to resonate in a way. So if you took one of those tubes and the thin tube, and you brought it down to the low note, it might not be enough space for that note to kind of resonate. But with the voice, and even with an organ, you could probably make the thicker tube thicker than it even is, and the thinner tube thinner than it even is, and it would change the quality of the sound. So there's the fundamental pitch that's happening at the level of the vocal folds. And then above it, we have the vocal tract, and that can be narrowed or widened. So I can sing this middle C with a wide tube, so to speak, or I can narrow the tube, I can narrow it even more. So it's the same note, but the space above where the vibration is happening is either wider or less wide or very narrow, right? So that's can give rise to that sense of mixing the voice. It's just changing the size of the resonating space. Then there's also volume. I could sing that loud, I could sing it soft, and that could also give rise to that. So if you think about it like that, instead of that there's just this, rigid non-mix down here, rigid non-mix up here, and then this like specific mix here, and you keep every single note treating it as its own kind of entity that has its own requirements about, how you want to sing that. You can have that tube, which is just your vocal tract, they're adjustable resonators instead of fixed resonators. Like in the organ, they're fixed because they're just one shape and that's it. And they can't get wider or narrower because they're not biodynamic. They're not alive. They're just fixed. So the note sounds the same. when you hit it because it's resonating in the same thing. With the voice, we have some fixed resonators, like our skull. You can't expand it, obviously, or contract it. But there are many muscles and just changeable ligaments within your body that you can kind of expand or contract. So if you think of it like that, then mixed voice, it's really just a myth. And when we have this rigid mindset that it's got to be a certain way in a certain place, then we lose that flexibility. So it's better if you think of it as each note that you sing can be sang in many ways, and just open your mindset. So certain notes, the reason why we experience vocal breaks is because certain notes will work well with one kind of shape in the throat. Like, say, for example, the chest voice notes respond well and agree with your throat being, metaphorically speaking, this wide, hypothetically speaking. And then as you get higher, that's going to be too wide. So it's going to be, it's going to be a disagreement between the resonating space and the note that you're trying to make. But then as you go higher, there's kind of like a narrowing that has to happen so that there's an agreement with the resonance. Ah. And then as you go higher, there's another narrowing that has to happen. Ah. That you have to kind of make it even smaller. So if you keep it wide the whole time, that will give you that feeling of singing a note, like a high note in the organ, and with the thick tube when you need it thinner. And then the backwards too, that might be very strange to try and sing a low note in that thin place. It's just not going to match. So not only do your vocal folds have to keep, adjusting to create the pitch that you're intending, but the vocal tract above it has to be just as responsive and flexible and pliable so that they can match. So if you think about it, like, mixed voice is not real, registers aren't really real, they're just kind of labels to help us organize our understanding, then this might expand your mindset, and it might loosen the grip that you have in the throat, where you're just like, okay, chest voice needs this, mixed voice needs this, head voice needs this. You just allow it and experiment with it and let it crack and let it sound bad and keep playing with it, instead of having these very simplistic, this what's the word, modality, that it's just 3 different voices and that you're blending it. Think of it as just an infinite array of possibilities, and explore with that, and use my videos and any other videos that you like to just explore. And so don't be rigidly adhering to this very narrow, fundamentalist, religious view that it's like this and like this and like this, because that's not necessary, and that's just obviously having you watch a video like this because you still haven't found what you're looking for. So yeah, that's what I got. So I am at contemporaryvoicelessons.com if you're interested in learning more about me or my teaching, or you can watch these other videos on YouTube, and I hope that was helpful. Take care.